Okay, so what is the difference between MEN2A and MEN2B? So the difference is that the MEN2A basically has parathyroid tumors, and the MEN2B typically has mucosal tumors. And you can see over here, you can see these mucosal neuromas over here. You know, they typically present. You can see it over here on the tongue as well. And also they can have morphonoid features as well. So they can have lanky fingers and so forth. Okay, so that's that question right here. All right, so let's move on to the next question. And one thing that I recommend is whenever you actually do a question, they're going to give you a percentage. So let's say you know, the correct percentage is 50%. Okay, so obviously you're going to look at that choice, but then if the second percentage of the question that was wrong was like 30%, a lot of people were picking that, go through that answer as well, because you know that's you want to always change. You basically, what you want to do is you want to basically see why people pick that answer as well, and then you can learn from that as well. Okay, so let's go to the next question. Okay, so next question is another more, it's not the same question, but it's a little bit different. So which of the following sets of serum lab findings would be expected in this patient? All right, so we start again. So you have a 23-year-old female is undergoing evaluation for refractory hypertension. So what does that mean? That basically means that the hypertension is actually not getting better. Okay, so let's see. So her blood pressure remains elevated despite compliance to her interventions, exercise, pharmacotherapy with both amlodipine, and so she's been taking her medications. She's doing exercise. She's doing everything she can, and she's young. So that's a big red flag right there. And then they do an imaging. So the CT scan reveals bilateral adrenal hyperplasia, and then the lab testing reveals elevated levels of aldosterone and decreased levels of renin. Okay, so we're thinking more endocrine system, and now that so now they're asking which of the following lab values it is. So you kind of look at your choices here. So which one? Take a keep your answer. And we'll come back to the answer in a second. I mean, did everyone understand the last answer? Just want to make sure. Okay. All right. So let's move on. So basically, this question involves the adrenal gland. So whenever you look at the adrenal gland, it's superior. It's on the superior pole of the kidney, and the adrenal cortex consists of the zona glomerulosa, the fasciculata, and the reticularis, and of course the medulla right there. So this is the specific organ it's involving right here. So you always want to kind of understand this. And then this is the pathway that we're working with as well, because it's affecting pretty much everything over here. So we're going to kind of get into this as well. So now, specifically, when you go into details of the adrenal cortex, you have your zona glomerulosa, which is basically makes aldosterone. You have your fasciculata, which makes the cortisol, and your reticularis, which makes androgen. So we're pretty much focused more on the glomerulosa, because you can see that the renin was decreased in that question, and the aldosterone is most likely increased. It's probably more of a secondary hypertension, and this is something that they can actually present on the exam as well. I've seen questions where they'll present a scenario like this, and they'll put a histological image, and they'll be like, which area is it most likely involving? Well, you're going to have to pick the glomerulosa, which is more superior here as well. And then this is the capsule as well. You can see the medulla is really important as well, which actually relates to pheochromocytoma. So, and also another system it's involving is the urinary system as well. And specifically, it's involving the distal convoluted tubule, because aldosterone affects that. So it's good to also understand, okay, from the nephron, and then you all the way go to the DCT, and how each tubule is affected by this system. So we're going to get into detail with that. So, the distal convoluted tubule is mainly responsible to aldosterone and vasopressin as well. So whenever you whenever there's a decrease of volume in the system, your aldosterone is going to be increased. And what aldosterone typically does is it will bring in the sodium. It'll bring in 1 sodium with 3 waters. That's what we'll typically bring in. And also it'll hello? Yes, hello? Yes, yeah, so it'll basically secrete the potassium and the hydrogen, and that'll increase the blood volume, and then eventually, that'll increase the cardiac output and the arterial pressure, and that will decrease renin. Okay?